So I recently completed in my first Ironman at Ironman Wales in September. I've got the medal and the t-shirt to prove it. And in this video, I just wanted to share some of the mistakes that I made and the lessons that I learned from the day to hopefully help you out when you do your first Ironman. Some may be bigger than others, but I wanted to share everything that I can remember to hopefully help you out. So the first mistake I made, which may seem insignificant, but it was something I'll do differently next time, was having the gel I planned to have just before the swim start too early. I had one when I was dropping off my pink bag on the zigzags. That was about 45 minutes before the swim, whereas I'd probably have liked to have taken it about maybe 15 minutes before. But I didn't realise that there were actually bins on the beach for you to put gel wrappers into. So just so I wasn't having to litter, I took the gel early and then put the wrapper in the pink bag. So this may not apply at the particular Ironman you're doing, may be worth asking, but certainly at Wales they had bins on the beach for you to put your gel wrappers into. Now my second mistake was one that came from not doing enough in training, and that was actually sighting for the buoys. Although I ended up having a good swim, I felt like I was all over the shop and sighting for the buoys was really quite difficult. So I ended up having to just basically rely on everyone around me and hope they were heading in the right direction. So yeah, that's something I would do next time during training, even if it's in the pool, just practice sighting and looking out for those buoys. Now this wasn't helped by my goggles, which I would consider to be my third mistake. Even though they were brand new pretty much, I think I'd only used them once or twice before, and they were meant to be good in the sun, they really weren't. I just found they kept misting up, and because the sun was so low at that point in the day, it was really hard to see. In fact, one of the buoys was basically invisible because of the sun just behind it. I think they were the Zog's Predators or something like that. I've used them before, but yeah, really not impressed this time. So I will be looking for a different pair next year. If you've got any recommendations, please do let me know in the comments below. Now onto the bike, which is where the biggest mistake of the day definitely came from. Going into the bike, my nutrition strategy for the first half certainly was absolutely spot on. I had a bottle every hour with a sachet of pH 1500 in and carb powder, and I was also alternating between a bar and chews every 20 minutes. Going into the race, I thought that the bike would take me between 6 and 6.5 hours, so I planned to take 6 bottles in total. I had space for 3 on the bike, and then at the halfway point I was going to swap those 3 bottles out for the ones that I'd made earlier and put in the personal needs bag. The mistake was assuming that the personal needs bag was at the halfway point in the race. Turns out it wasn't. Long story short, the personal needs bags weren't available to pick up till around an hour later, so that meant I went an hour without the electrolytes, which I really did need. I did try to make up for it with some of the on-course nutrition, but it was a bit too late at that point as both my quads and hamstrings were really cramping up, especially on those big hills. Thankfully, I did manage to hold off the cramp for the entirety of the bike ride, and I was just trying to get in as much as I could in that second half of the bike just to compensate for that hour where I didn't get anything in. Now, because I finished the bike in a decent time still and I was able to hold off the cramp, it wasn't a complete disaster, but certainly what I consider to be the biggest mistake made and something to remember for next time. The second biggest mistake came in T2, where I was trying to be a little bit clever and try and save a bit of time. I knew I needed to take some stuff with me on the run, so rather than just sorting it out in the tent before starting the run, I thought I would try and be clever and put it all in a big Ziploc bag. This included a soft flask with carbs and electrolytes for the first hour or so of the run, some electrolyte capsules for the rest of the run, a hat and some gels. Now, trying to sort all of this out whilst running with purpose was, to be honest, an absolute nightmare and something I wouldn't recommend. I ended up dropping my soft flask just a few meters from transition. It ended up breaking, so I couldn't bite on it to drink. I had to physically pour it up. And given that it's a soft flask, that was quite difficult. I did manage to salvage a little bit of the fluids inside, but when I got to the first bin, it went in there along with the Ziploc bag. Now, I ended up having far too much nutrition on me to carry, and to be honest, even though the tri-suit itself was pretty good, the pockets on it were absolutely shocking, and it basically didn't hold much at all. Something I found out shortly after was that coming down the hill on the first lap, I managed to drop all of my electrolyte capsules. So I had them in like a blister pack, which I just stuck in the pocket, but somehow that came out and yeah, didn't manage to take any of them. So I ended up having to run pretty much the full marathon, just relying on the few gels and chews that I took with me. And then at that point, I thought I'm going to have to rely on the on-course nutrition. Now, this wasn't too bad to begin with, but towards the end, I was just completely sick of it, especially the chews. No way could I have stomached them, but I did manage to get down the gels. In terms of the aid stations, I was taking on just water and then Gatorade. As I said in my previous video where I recapped the race, I had some stomach trouble, which meant I had to stop for the toilet twice, but I did manage to get through it, thankfully. Now, despite these mistakes, I did manage to finish the Ironman, my first one, in 11 hours, 45 minutes and 43 seconds. So it was certainly a really good day, and I'm pleased with that time, very pleased. But I just think that if I could correct some of those mistakes I made next time, I could be that a little bit quicker. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys that are doing your first Ironman soon, particularly if you're doing Wales next year. Thank you so much for watching this one. If you haven't already, I'll leave a link on the screen to the recap video where I go into more depth about Ironman Wales and how I did on the day. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.